What's going on, guys? In this video, we're going to talk about the Electro version of the main character. Up until recently, this character has been one of the most neglected on my account and on this channel, so it feels really good to finally highlight the Traveler. While waiting for patch 2.0, I leveled my MC to 80 out of 90 and farmed a Noblesse set so that I can easily swap elements when I want to. I was ready to level the Traveler simply because they're the first quote-unquote new Electro character since release, and I'm definitely not disappointed. Electro Traveler has insane battery potential, off-field damage, and a high rate of Electro application while their burst is active. Electro Traveler is not completely broken, but is approaching the meta-defining territory as a character that not only provides flat energy with their skill and burst, but also boosts energy recharge of party members by a minimum of 30% and up to 40% with normal builds. Because of the raw utility this character brings, investment can be low and builds can be simple, and you will still get huge benefits. The Electro element is still pretty underwhelming in Genshin, and this element is not a staple in most team comps, but the mechanics this character brings make them well worth the investment in my opinion. I'm going to go over the Electro MC's skills, constellations, optimum playstyles, builds, and teams so that you can get the most out of this character without over-investing. So let's get into it. Traveler skill Lightning Blade deals 3 Thunder Shadows, each of which have the ability to do Electro damage and generate Abundance Amulets. At Constellation 1, 3 amulets in total will be generated, 1 for each Lightning Blade that hits a target. This skill is mostly supportive with a scaling of only 167% at talent level 13. Each of these amulets will provide flat energy when picked up, which maxes out at 4 energy at talent level 7. However, at Constellation 4, characters below 35% energy will receive double the amount of energy per amulet, or 8 total. When a character picks up an amulet, their energy recharge also increases by 20%. This increases by an additional 10% of Traveler's energy recharge when their second passive is unlocked. So at minimum, the character will gain 30% energy recharge, and this will increase to 40% or more with the recommended Traveler builds. After picking up the amulet, this is only active for 6 seconds, but these stay on the field for a total of 15 seconds, so these can either be used by multiple characters, or you can extend the duration by waiting until the previous amulet expires to pick up another one. In theory, this allows for 100% uptime on this energy recharge increase. Traveler's Elemental Burst has 3 aspects to it. First, it will deal Electro damage and stagger smaller enemies like Hilly Girls. Second, it will apply Electro damage to enemies every time you normal or charge attack during its duration. And third, it will provide the active character a flat amount of energy every time they attack, which maxes out at 1 energy at talent level 7. Falling Thunder damage and energy regeneration can be triggered every 0.5 seconds, so much like the use of Xingqiu for off-field elemental application, this ability will work most optimally with characters with a fast attack speed. This burst opens up the possibility to continuously trigger Electro reactions, much like a Constellation 6 Fischl. The duration of this ability is only 12 seconds and it is on a 20-second cooldown, so it does have a decent amount of downtime. That said, if the active character can normal attack every 0.5 seconds throughout its duration, this ability alone can deal 1,621% damage at talent level 10. These also have the ability to create elemental reactions and therefore add even more damage output. I'll discuss my suggested reaction team pairings later in the video. In theory, it is not practical to proc all 24 instances due to attack timing issues. I did test this with a number of characters by performing their regular attack sequence and seeing how many times they could proc Falling Thunder. You can see the information currently on the screen. Hu Tao was able to proc this the most times at 15, while Eula did the least at only 8. On average, it is likely that Falling Thunder will be applied 12 times, providing a flat 12 energy and a damage scaling of 913% at talent level 10. Traveler's C6 will double the damage and provide an additional energy particle every 3rd attack, bringing the total scaling closer to 1,149% and energy generation up to 16. This ability also allows Traveler to be a decent reaction support unit. In most cases, Traveler will be the one causing the reaction, so leveling Traveler and building some elemental mastery will help with overall team damage. Because of internal cooldowns, which in most cases prevent an elemental debuff being applied to an enemy with every elemental attack, Traveler will not be able to cause a reaction every time Falling Thunder is applied, and the total number of reactions caused by Traveler will be closer to 6 during the 12-second burst duration. But with the recent elemental mastery buffs, Overload is pretty pretty OP, and if you build a reasonable amount of elemental mastery on Traveler, or use characters like Sucrose for elemental mastery transfer, you can easily proc overload reactions that deal 10,000 damage or more. Traveler also has 2 passive talents, not 3 like all other characters. The first passive reduces skill cooldown from 13.5 to 12 seconds when another character picks up an amulet, and we already discussed the second passive, which increases energy recharge gained by the amulet by 10% of Traveler's total energy recharge. As far as talent priority goes, you will want to focus on the burst and then the skill, but unless you're going for damage on this character, there's not a huge benefit leveling these past talent level 7, as the energy transfer mechanics cap out at that level. So what is new that Electro Traveler brings to the table? Characters like Jean and Diona can provide themselves with energy when performing their burst, while other characters like Venti and Klee can provide energy to other party members. Currently, there's not a single character in the game that can increase the energy recharge stat of other party members. To my knowledge, up until now, a character's energy recharge could only be increased by artifact stats or set bonuses, weapon substats and passives, or ascension stats. Traveler therefore brings an entirely new mechanic to the table. The last 2 main DPS characters introduced, Eula and Ayaka, both have 80 cost bursts, and this burst accounts for about half of their damage output. These characters benefit greatly by having batteries on their team, which allow them to build more into damage stats and less into energy recharge. Let's briefly touch on Electro Traveler's weapons, artifacts, and stat priorities. I don't want to put a ton of time into this section, as I really do not think that Traveler needs high investment, and that this character has a significant number of weapons and artifacts available that are viable as of this patch. I will discuss what I think is the best build for Traveler and what you should aim for in your stats. As for weapons, I believe the ER weapon should be the weapon of choice for the majority of players. Traveler has an 80 burst cost and only generates a single particle with their skill, which is on a 12 to 13.5 second cooldown. In this category, we have Festering Desire, Skyward Blade, Favonius Sword, and Sacrificial Sword. Of these options, my recommendation would be Favonius Sword to add even more battery potential to this character, as well as generate energy for themselves. Sacrificial Sword would be my second choice, as this sword will allow you to perform your skill once, pick up the amulets created with Traveler to restore some of their burst cost, and then cast your skill a second time so that your main DPS or other party members can pick up the second set of amulets generated. Festering Desire is in general better on characters with high elemental skill damage, and Skyward Blade is better on characters with overall higher damage scaling, or those that scale off base attack like Bennett, but neither are bad choices for Traveler. The new Inazuma Craftable Sword, Amanoma Kaguechi, is okay because it will provide energy when you use your burst, but you can only get a single stack during your burst cooldown, which will only provide 12 energy at Refinement 5, so it is not the best option, but will result in higher damage output than the others mentioned. Non-energy recharge weapons are really only viable in double Electro comps, such as those with Fischl, who can battery Traveler, and are only recommended for those cases. With weapons out of the way, let's discuss artifacts and stat priority. After testing Electro Traveler pretty heavily over the past several days, the 2 artifact sets I would recommend are the 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate or 4-piece Noblesse Oblige, if you're not running this on another party member. 2-piece Noblesse with 2-piece Thundering Fury is a solid option, while farming Emblem of Severed Fate pieces, which I do recommend almost every late game player does because that set is so useful on so many characters. Most of Electro Traveler's damage comes from her burst, with higher initial damage scaling and repeated Electro application, so we want to maximize burst damage. I do think 4-piece Emblem is the best choice due to the 20% energy recharge bonus, as well as the approximate 50% burst damage increase you'll get from recommended energy recharge values. As far as artifact main stats, I would recommend an energy recharge Sands, electro damage Goblet, and crit rate or crit damage Circlet. From the testing I've done when running Traveler alongside Fischl, 160% energy recharge felt like the minimum needed for 100% burst uptime. Without an Electro battery, I would aim for around 220% energy recharge. Traveler has the same burst cost as Xingqiu, but with even worse energy generation. Assuming you have very good energy recharge substats, you could substitute an attack percent Sands, but this is unlikely for most players. The easiest way to achieve 220% ER will be using an ER weapon, ER Sands, and running the emblem set. Most of the Electro MC's value comes from their burst, so you want to maintain 100% uptime whenever possible. For substats, I would in general prioritize crit rate, crit damage, attack percent, and ER if still needed. If you're solely running Electro Traveler as an overload support, you can sacrifice attack percent and crit stats for elemental mastery to maximize overload damage. Burst uptime is still critical for this build, so you'll not want to sacrifice your energy recharge stats. For this particular build, I'd still prioritize an energy recharge Sands, but would swap the main stats on the Goblet and Circlet for EM. Finally, let's discuss team synergies and some new options that I believe this character will open up for team compositions. The current teams that I'm enjoying using Electro Traveler are overload comps with a Pyro main DPS such as Hu Tao, Klee, Yanfei, or the future Yoimiya, and my Eula comps. I've discussed it in the past, but my favorite Hu Tao team comp consists of Hu Tao, Xingqiu, and Electro support. This is because the Electro Charge reaction lets both the Hydro and Electro element persist. In this team, Electro Traveler is battering your main DPS unit, while also allowing for high uptime on Electro Charged and overloaded reactions. While their damage output is less than Fischl or Beidou, they do offer other benefits these characters do not provide. I believe Yoimiya is going to really shine in overload comps as a ranged Pyro user who does not mind if smaller enemies are launched away. Yoimiya's new artifact set, Shimenawa's Reminiscence, will also drain her energy to provide a damage increase, so a battery character like Traveler will help her to maintain uptime on this set while still filling the role as an overload support. Electro Traveler also opens up new possibilities for high burst cost carries like Eula and Xiao. My Eula teams previously felt restricted because they were almost dependent on having a second cryo unit to battery Eula. Electro Traveler can now fill both the superconduct support and battery role and open up a spot in the party to run another unit with additional synergy. The Electro Resonance from double Electro comps is another way to generate additional energy, so running Electro Traveler alongside either Fischl or Beidou provides a lot of energy generation on top of an extremely high rate of Electro application. Traveler also shares a similar C6 to Beidou, both of which decrease Electro resistance by 15% during their burst. With multiple new Electro units on the way, this character will likely fit in well with some of these future characters as well. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys found this video helpful, please leave a like and consider subscribing as it really helps the channel out. I'll see you guys soon for the next video. Peace.